Welcome to Public House, intimate conversations with people making a difference in the Hudson Valley. And now, from Paula's Public House in Poughkeepsie, New York, here's Paula Young.
Hi, I'm Paula Young. Welcome to a very special episode of Public House. My guest today is Michael Hayes, Judge Michael Hayes, who is going to be running for Surrogate Court for Dutchess County. And I'm very happy to welcome him, and he's going to talk a little bit about what that is, because I don't think most people know. Michael Hayes, welcome to my chair.
Thanks, Paula.
Welcome to Public House. So, you are currently the judge of LaGrange Court.
That's right.
You're also a law clerk.
I am.
And now what does that mean?
Well, a law clerk is essentially the attorney for a judge. Each litigant who appears in court has an attorney. The plaintiff has an attorney, the defendant has an attorney, and the judge also has an attorney. So I'm the law clerk to Judge Peter Foreman, who is our county court judge, elected, but who also serves as an acting Supreme Court judge, and he's also our acting surrogate, and Surrogate's Court is the court I'm running for.
And so he's a busy guy, and you're about to be a busy guy. Tell us all what a surrogate judge. I know what surrogacy is, which is basically speaking for those who can't speak.
That's exactly right.
So explain.
The best way I can describe Surrogate's Court is that its core mission is to protect the most vulnerable members of our community. And the best way to speak in that is not really in the abstract, but to talk about examples that I think most people can relate to. So my wife, Michelle, has a cousin, Donald, who's in his mid-40s, who's autistic. I have a cousin who has two sons who are teenagers, and they're both on the spectrum. And a lot of people, I think, in our community have been touched by one way or another by the spread of autism. So when you talk to a parent of somebody who's autistic and you ask them, what's your biggest fear in life? Invariably, the answer is, what's going to happen to my son when I'm gone? The answer in most occasions is something called a supplemental needs trust, which can only be created in Surrogate's Court. And when that fateful moment comes and the parents have passed away, three things really happen. The first thing is that autistic person now becomes vulnerable in a way that he never was before, because he's lost his rock, his parents, who were there for him through his entire life. The second thing that happens is the money that's sitting in that trust, no matter how small or how big that trust might be, that money suddenly becomes all the money in the world to that very vulnerable person.
Right.
And the third thing is it becomes the surrogate's job to make sure that that person is protected and the money goes where it's supposed to go. And that's something that speaks to me on a very deep and personal level. I'm the oldest of six, and that idea of protecting the more vulnerable, the more fragile people, that's my whole self-perception of who I am.
So obviously that's why you're a do-gooder, and I love that, because I am too. So that's in one case. And what do other cases, is it for children, is it for older folks?
Well, that's another side of the spectrum is, many of us have aging relatives, and we're starting to have to ask some hard questions. Can mom still manage her checkbook? Can dad still make decisions about his health care and where he's going to live? If you've got an aging aunt who lives on her own, can she still drive? And these are tough questions, because when you ask these questions, what you're really talking about is, have we reached a point where we're going to start to strip away somebody's freedom? Somebody's lived an independent, self-sufficient life. I've handled cases as a prosecutor and as a law clerk in county court, murder cases, very serious cases. As a private litigator, I've handled commercial and civil litigation where millions of dollars is at risk. But in my mind, there's no more important case, no bigger power that a judge might have than to make a decision as to whether or not the individual freedoms that someone has enjoyed all their life are going to now to be stripped away on some level and handed over to a guardian. But sometimes it's unavoidable. If somebody's suffering from Alzheimer's and they've become incapacitated and are unable to care for themselves, then there's a desperate need for a guardian.
Right.
So the surrogate court judge is first and foremost a gatekeeper and makes the decision, are we there yet? Have we reached the point where it's appropriate and in fact necessary to appoint a guardian? If so, can the guardianship be limited in some way to make it as least restrictive as possible? So maybe mom can't manage her checkbook anymore, but she can still make decisions about her own health care.
Tell mom she can't drive.
That's the last
thing people want to give up. Although lately I see people who are my age and younger who should all have to be retested. Can we change that? You have to get new tests every year. So tell me why you're the best person for the job.
Well, I think certainly part of it has to be courtroom experience, and I've spent my entire 25-year career in the courtroom. I always knew I wanted to be in court, that was the type of lawyer I wanted to be. And if you'd asked me on my first day of law school, what's your dream job, I would have said assistant DA in the Manhattan DA's office. It's a really hard job to get. Nobody gets that job. I think 3,000 people applied the year I applied. But somehow or other, the stars aligned and I got that job, and I love that job. And again, that comes back to that idea of wanting to protect people and stand up for people. And again, that one person who was standing on the wrong street corner at the wrong time of day or wrong time of night and was perceived as weak and vulnerable in the moment, as a prosecutor, I got to stand up in court and be their advocate. And I love that job, but I grew up here in Dutchess County, and I always knew that there would come a point where I would want to come back here to build a life, both professionally and to raise a family. And so after having served my time in the Manhattan DA's office, I came back up here, and I spent 15 years in private practice, 11 of them as a partner, all 15 years in the courtroom, and I think built up a good reputation within the community.
Your breadth of experience is what you're bringing to this job.
Well, I hope so. That's an important part of it, and certainly acting as the law clerk to our acting surrogate for the last 7 years, having been a town judge in LaGrange for 5 years, I think that helps flesh out the experience. But experience, kind of the technical ability, is only, I would say, half of the equation. The other half of the equation is compassion, common sense, demeanor.
Absolutely. And we were just discussing earlier about the parties, but in a job like yours, it's really more important to be a human party, to be a human being. And I've always found you to be that. I've found you to be sensible and rational and someone who listens. And that's why I think that you're going to be very good at this. And I would really recommend that folks vote, and absolutely vote character and vote experience, which I think you bring.
Well, I appreciate that. This is an elected job, but it's not supposed to be a political job.
Correct.
And it's very hard to sort of, balance those two sides. So one of the things I'm really proud about here is, this is a world we live in where two political parties can't agree what time of day it is.
Exactly.
But 6 different political parties have all nominated me as their candidate, and they agree that I'd be the right person for this job.
So you're on 6 different lines.
I am.
6 different places people can find you, and what are those?
They are Republican, Independents, Conservative, Green, Reform, and Women's Equality.
There you go. So I think you pretty much got that covered. I really appreciate you coming in, meeting you, learning a little bit about this, because I think there are things people see the sign Surrogate's Judge. I don't think they really know what it was, and you put a face to that. So thank you, Michael. I appreciate it.
Paula.
And I wish you best of luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So thank you very much for tuning in for this episode of Public House. And don't forget that the right to vote, that's something very important, and it means a lot to me. So exercise your right. Get out there and vote. Thank you. We'll see you soon. Hi, I'm Paula Young, and I'm the proprietor here of Paula's Public House. Do join me for good food, good cheer, and good fellowship. We are here, we have fun, and we'd love to have you be a part of it. Come on down.